You were given your first motorcycle when you were 4 years old.
3.5.
I got bad news for you. No, I'm kidding. Your birth certificate is wrong. You were 4. I want this to be a recurring...
I love how you're rewriting my book.
I want this to be a recurring thing where every time Josh corrects me, I got bad news for you.
And by the way, you get mad and you shoot back.
Yeah. Okay, 3.5 and you get a motorcycle?
3.5. An Indian.
Why are you still here?
Indian 20. An Indian 12, Indian 20. I was 3.5, and then 2 weeks later I had him take off the training wheels. As you see in my face in all those
sanctioned
pictures.
This?
My dad. My dad, who doesn't ride motorcycles anymore and was never very good. He fell at one point and really fucked up his ankle. But I rode my whole life. I raced dirt bikes. I got my 80s and that's where I was spoiled. My dad always got me a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. So I had probably 5 different motorcycles growing
And you've done
up.
some crazy rides like through New Zealand?
Well, then when I was 19, then I got into the kind of Harley thing. And then from 19 on, so however many years that is, 19 to 56.
Right.
And I ride with a group of guys now and we go 1,200 mile pulls and we go to chopper shows and stuff like that. I have a 1937 knucklehead, 1968 shovelhead, 1956 panhead, 1947 knucklehead.
Can I ask a very nerdy, which is, what about maintenance on those?
We're breaking down because we're vintage motorcycles.
Yes.
So you have to ride with people who can fix them. I'm not good. Like, admittedly not good. I wish I was better. But I ride Steven. There's several people that we ride with that, you'll see a transmission on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Like a full transmission. And we'll fix it on the
secretly love, I love vintage motorcycles. I don't own one, but I love them. And whenever I get a chance, I try to ride a vintage motorcycle. Yeah. And we were shooting something in Thailand. And there was a chance for me, this was last year, and we wanted one shot of me riding through this jungle area, and you come out with a nice drone shot, and they found this absolutely gorgeous vintage, I think it was a BMW. I could be incorrect about that, but it was like from the early 50s, and it was just this bike that you could drool over. I couldn't wait to get on it. I get on it, and my first feeling as I'm riding is, this is fucking terrible. Meaning the ride.
Oh, no, I know what you mean.
And also, if you don't keep the throttle just right, it's gonna conk out.
Oh yeah,
a guy kept having to come out and kick it and take it apart and put it back together again. And
in order for you just to ride 50 feet for
just
the
literally
shot.
for 50 feet for the shot. And we ended up getting the shot, and it looks amazing. Yeah. But I kept thinking, this is why I.
No, I mean, there's
I like an automatic transmission. Not an
like
automatic,
when you see Hell's Angels or Mongols now, and they're all on nice bikes. They're all on new bikes. I mean, there's guys, true motorcyclists that I know that have super nice bikes that look at us and say, I could never do what you do because it's too exposing. It's just, I mean, also, you break down. There's no front brake. There's sometimes not a back brake. If you're
to
going
throw an
downhill,
anchor. You have to throw an anchor. Well, in 100 yards, I'm coming for a stop.
Grab me! That's why I think even now, and my older kids can attest to this, I have a 36-year-old, a 31-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And my older kids, my son's a great artist, and there's a lot of like electrical towers. And you go, oh, I know that's because he was in the back of the car looking out the window. Yeah. Like we stayed in motels, we stayed in that. And I do the same thing now. I make it as uncomfortable as I can. I have an absolute like fear of living in nothing but comfort. Sorry for them. But it's just how it is. Yeah. There's something, like I said, there's something substantial. There's something substantial about the vintage Harley Davidsons where I wrote about it in the book. They said, write about motorcycles. It's so impossible to write about motorcycles. And I wrote, and I kept crossing shit out. And finally I said, I can't do it. And the minute I said I can't do it, I started writing. And then there was some connection with my mother and being in the back of the car with my mother and then riding motorcycles now and those connections and riding through a swarm of bees and all that. You go, that's the deal. Mm-hmm. The discomfort is the deal.
Yeah.
If you have some resilience, I have a massive worry about a lack of resilience, even with my kids. I look at my 3-year-old. My 3-year-old's literally the toughest person I know, my girl. She's just, you can see it in her face. You're like, oh, you're 100% Brolin. You're going to be okay. We just got to keep you from going crazy. Yeah. But there's this, again, it's character. It's all the stuff that's colorful and lively that I embrace.
The other thing that I used to say to my wife when our kids were little is, let's remember that it's important they be bored.
Yes.
And
yes.
Because there's so much, the culture now and the technology is such that there's never a moment where you are bored. And I remember being bored as a kid because...
And having to resort to your imagination.
Yeah. And
who
then,
you are.
Yeah. And so I think, do you have that with your kids, Sona?
Oh, yeah. And it takes a lot of work to just remind yourself that it's okay if they're doing nothing. And then you see them start to resort to their imagination and you realize that's what they should be doing.
Do you, because I sometimes see people that just give their kid the screen. And they say, you're fine with the screen. I'm going to go off. I'll be back in 6 weeks.
No, man.
No, we
I'm talking about Matt Gourley.
Yeah, Matt does that, but not me.
He also gives him a little rum.
Yeah.
Well, that part's true.
Yeah. Well, Matt and I both also have 3-year-olds too. It's
twin?
I have twins. He has one. Yeah.
Right. You have, right. Okay.
Oh, we're not together.
No, I got it.
No.
You got what I mean.
They're not together. They're not together. I keep trying to get them together, which is creepy because
we are together. I just won't acknowledge one of the children.
No, I just saw you playing footsies underneath the table, and I thought there's something going on.
They often just trade shoes underneath the table.
So you each have 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have a real pistol too, and I know you do as well.
Yeah.
It's a girl.
It's a girl, and yours?
Mine are 2 boys. They're twins.
Two boys. Wow.
Yeah. They're crazy.
It's great though.
It is.
Even the irritation is great. There's a thing right now where they're both going through like when you get mad, it would be great if you lived in a different house. And I'm not even getting mad. I'm just like, please don't do that. And they're like, can you live in a different house? And I'm like, fuck you, man. I looked at my 3-year-old at one point and I said, is there nothing about me that intimidates you?
Yeah.
And they just stare. You know what I mean?
I would love to have that. My daughter's so passive aggressive. You speak to her, hey Glenn, and she'll go, we're listening.
Oh God, that's the worst. It makes you crazy.
It does, and I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
I love that you have a little kid who stares at you with a Brolin face and is like, hey, old man, keep walking.
Oh yeah,
keep walking, old man.
You don't even know the depths.
I kind of do.
No, but I'm saying she's saying that in her mind when she looks at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're old now. We're the next generation, motherfucker.
I'll bury you.
Like literally, dude.
I'll pour the dirt on your grave.
I'm not afraid of many people in this lifetime, but my kids, definitely. My 31-year-old daughter who's on tour, she just got off tour, music. She was headlining all over the country. And she's one girl who I'm absolutely, utterly in love with, but who scares the shit out of me. She's she's the first person in this life that actually scared me.
Do you see, it's a very personal question, but do you see your mom coming through in
For
some
sure.
of these? Yeah.
For sure. In the best way, though. My mom was spinning, man. And my mom, what I don't write about in the book, too, they go, God, your mom sounds like horrible.
No. That is not what comes across in the book.
I'm glad.
Not at all. Your mother is an absolutely fascinating character. She is the thread. She's the propulsion behind a lot of the book. She's clearly a huge propulsion for you through your life.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do very beautifully is you talk about her troubles, her struggles, decisions that today some people would question, but you also include a beautiful letter she writes to you about how proud, there is no doubt she loves you. There's no doubt she's proud of you. There's no doubt that she's like Zorba the Greek. She is living every single second.
Yeah.
That all comes through.
Yeah. There was a moment toward the end of her life, and I found it was an Al-Anon book, and I still have it, and it had her name in the front that she wrote, hand wrote. And I know that there was a thing at the end. She had thought of, what's that show on right now? Chimps or something like that?
Oh, Chimp Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Chimp Crazy. And she had thought of a show 30 years ago about like a sitcom of chimps and people and doing it like animatronically or something like that because she was into the wildlife thing. And somebody took her seriously and said, I want you to develop that show. And she wasn't in the business or anything. It was just somebody that she knew and said, I want you to develop that show in a serious way. And I remember my mother crying, and I said, what's the matter? And she said, I've never been taken seriously in my life. So she was a freak show.
Yeah.
And then you start living up to that freak show. And then interestingly, there's a guy, I remember who it was. There was a guy who said, hey, my friend's coming. He was Canadian. And he said, my friend's coming into town. Do you want to go out? And I said, sure. And I went out, and I had done something a couple of days before. So I stopped drinking for a few days. And we went out, and he said, what can I get you? And I said, water's fine. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, I just take a water. I'm not drinking tonight. And he goes, I brought my friend down from Canada. I told her about you. And I go, what do you mean? And he said, it's like, you're going to have a night. I told her that you're crazy. And I was like, oh, I'm like your fucking clown, man.
Yeah.
I'm like your thing. I'm like you pay the $2, I have the two heads, or I have the thing, and you're going to experience a Brolin moment, a Brolin night.
Yeah.
He's going to go to jail, and you're going to go home and go, how crazy is that guy, right? And then you're going to go on with your life. That was when I started to go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Because my mom lived a life of that, and I saw right at the end when she was taken seriously at 55, and I'm 56. And strangely enough, this book was never intended to be this book. This book happened organically. I just started writing. I'd look at my journals and I'd go, I remember that moment. And I start writing about it, and poorly. And then this thing formulated into this, all these stories about my mom. And you go, maybe and it happened at 55. What a strange thing.
Well, it is, I can't recommend the book enough. And again, when I picked it up, I didn't know what I'd be discovering. And my big takeaway is you have lived for a young man, you have lived an incredible life. And your prose style is really striking and great. Thanks, and man. Admirable. Thank you. That's something that hit me across the face. Is you're a very talented writer, and you should write more.
You as a writer, I appreciate that very much. Seriously.
Well, I'm a very great writer.
Okay. All right.
Wait, did I go the wrong way with that?
Back on
Why
that.
can't you just make a moment normal?
Just let it happen.
Let him compliment
I'm
you,
one
and
of
then
the
just
great
say
But
thank
writers
you
of-
and
you said
stop
I'm a
talking.
great, very great writer, which grammatically is so fucked up.
It's just the worst writing possible.
It's the worst
Bad.
I'm not done. Very great writer.
Oh, say thank you.
Josh, every time I've encountered you in my life, other than when I used to run away from you on the street, because I swear to God, you had a weapon. You were going through some bad shit at the time. But every time I've talked to you on one of my shows and today, you are a very honest person who has paid attention in life, and you're sharing what you've seen with people, and you're very wise, and you're hilariously funny, and it's a joy. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks,
really,
man.
yeah,
Thanks for having me.
and I'm gonna come hang with you now for a couple of days if that's cool.
That's fine.
I don't think
Crawl
it is.
into bed, brother. Crawl into bed. Snuggle up. Snuggle up. I'm open to it all.